There's a strange feeling right after buying something expensive. For a few moments, you feel different, more confident, more valuable, more noticed. Maybe it's new shoes, a phone, a watch, a car, a luxury dinner, or even something small that made you feel slightly more important. And the weird part is, sometimes you didn't even truly want the thing. You wanted the feeling attached to it. Because humans don't only spend money to survive, they spend money to shape identity, to communicate status, to avoid feeling invisible. And most people never realize how much of their spending is emotional, not logical. 1. The silent fear of feeling ordinary. Nobody says it out loud, but many people are terrified of feeling average. Not poor, not unsuccessful, just forgettable. And in modern society, money became one of the fastest ways to escape that feeling, because money can change how people react to you, how they speak to you, how they perceive you, sometimes even how much respect they give you. A person walks into a room wearing designer clothes. People notice. Another person arrives in a luxury car. People pay attention. Someone posts pictures from an expensive vacation. People admire them. And the brain quietly learns something dangerous. Maybe importance can be purchased. So you start spending, not only for usefulness, but for emotional positioning, to feel elevated, to feel admired, to feel seen. And honestly, being seen feels powerful, especially if you spent years feeling ignored. 2. The emotional side of spending. Most purchases are not purely rational. They're emotional first, logical second. That's why you can buy something unnecessary and still deeply justify it afterward. This will motivate me. I deserve this. It's an investment. Everybody has one. But beneath the logic, there's often emotion, stress, loneliness, insecurity, comparison, validation. Sometimes you shop after a bad day, not because you need something, but because buying temporarily changes emotion. The brain receives stimulation, novelty, excitement, relief. For a moment, the emotional heaviness disappears, and that moment becomes addictive, because humans naturally repeat behaviors that temporarily reduce discomfort, even expensive ones. 3. Childhood programming. A lot of spending habits begin long before adulthood. As a child, you notice who gets praised, who gets admired, who gets attention. And very often, people with visible success receive different treatment. The richer family member, the successful businessman, the stylish student, the person with expensive things. The child observes all of this silently. And slowly, your brain creates associations. Money equals status. Status equals respect. Respect equals emotional safety. So, years later, you become an adult chasing symbols, not because you're shallow, but because emotionally, you learned that symbols affect value. And companies understand this perfectly. Luxury brands rarely sell functionality. They sell emotional identity. A car becomes power. A watch becomes success. A phone becomes relevance. A handbag becomes status. The object itself is secondary. The emotional meaning is the real product. 4. Social media made it worse. Before social media, people compared themselves locally. Now, comparison is endless. Every scroll shows somebody richer, more successful, more attractive, more luxurious, more ahead. And the brain absorbs all of it emotionally, even when you pretend it doesn't affect you. You can feel grateful until you open social media. Suddenly, your life feels smaller. Your progress feels slower. Your achievements feel ordinary. Not because reality changed, but because perception changed. And this creates pressure. Pressure to upgrade. Pressure to perform success. Pressure to avoid looking left behind. So you buy things, not only because you want them, but because you fear appearing unsuccessful. That fear silently drives billions of dollars in spending. 5. The performance of importance. You are not living anymore. You are performing. Every purchase becomes communication. Every lifestyle choice becomes branding. Every expensive item becomes proof. Proof that you matter. Proof that you're progressing. proof that you're winning. But maintaining an image is exhausting. Because once people know you as successful, you feel pressure to keep looking successful, even when you're struggling internally. That's why you are financially drowning while still trying to appear wealthy online. Because image became survival. And this creates a painful contradiction. You look important publicly, but privately feels anxious, empty, stressed, trapped. Because external status cannot permanently repair internal insecurity. The expensive purchase works for a while. The compliments feel good, confidence rises, excitement spikes. But then something happens. The brain adapts very quickly. What felt special yesterday becomes normal tomorrow. So now you need another upgrade, another purchase, another emotional high. And this becomes a cycle, a very expensive cycle. You adapt to comfort faster than you expect. That's why you, who dreamed of owning certain things, eventually stop feeling excited after getting them. Because the emotional reward fades. And when identity depends on external stimulation, you keep chasing more, bigger, newer, more impressive, not realizing you are trying to solve an internal problem externally. Here's the deeper truth. You don't actually crave luxury. You crave significance. You want to feel meaningful, respected, valued, important. And honestly, that desire is deeply human. For most of history, social status affected survival. Being respected meant opportunity, protection, influence, belonging. So even today, your nervous systems react strongly to status. That's why embarrassment hurts so deeply. That's why rejection feels painful. That's why humiliation stays in memory for years. Humans are emotional social creatures, and spending often becomes a shortcut toward emotional reassurance. I matter. I belong. I'm enough. That's what many purchases are emotionally saying, even when you don't realize it consciously. The most dangerous spending is identity spending, when you no longer buy things for enjoyment, but for self-worth maintenance. That changes everything, because now you cannot slow down, cannot downgrade, cannot be honest, cannot rest, because your identity became dependent on appearance. Imagine needing strangers to continuously confirm your value. That's exhausting psychologically, and you silently live like this every day. Working jobs you hate, to fund lifestyles you barely enjoy, to impress people you don't even truly know. That realization is uncomfortable, but powerful, because awareness changes behavior. Real confidence becomes quieter over time, less performative, less desperate, less dependent on reaction. When you genuinely value yourself internally, you begin to spend differently. Not always cheaply, but intentionally, because you are no longer trying to purchase identity. You buy things you enjoy, not things designed to emotionally rescue you. And interestingly, when you're truly secure, you often stop needing constant display, because peace replaced performance. That's why you look surprisingly simple. You no longer need symbols to convince yourself they matter. That internal shift changes everything. At the end of the day, you don't just spend money on products, you spend money on emotion, on identity, on validation, on belonging, on temporary relief from insecurity. And once you understand this, human behavior starts making more sense. The luxury obsession, the constant upgrading, the emotional shopping, the need to show success. At the end of the day, you don't just spend money on products, you spend money on emotion, on identity, on validation, on belonging, on temporary relief from insecurity. And once you understand this, human behavior starts making more sense. The luxury obsession, the constant upgrading, the emotional shopping, the need to show success. Because the moment your self-worth stops depending on appearances, you become calmer, lighter, less pressured, less controlled by comparison. And strangely, that's when confidence becomes real, not purchased, not performed, built. And that kind of importance cannot be bought.